Better than Trump. I'll be voting for him. Yeah, me too. Wish we had a better option, though. Yeah, well, at least it's not Trump. We gotta pick the lesser of two evils. Yeah, I guess so. A few months later. Oh my God. Joe Biden stepped down, and now Vice President Kamala Harris is running for office. I don't know why you're excited, Nick. Kamala Harris is pro-Israel. She's a genocidal maniac. We're going to call her Genocide Harris. Wait a minute. Vice President Harris hasn't changed any policies or thought processes than Biden when it comes to Israel and Palestine. She would be way better for black people. She has a history of trying to make law enforcement and just the judicial system more transparent. Trump wants to take away those things and give police more immunity to kill us black people. Like, we're literally going through a slow genocide here as African Americans. I thought that y'all understood that. That's why y'all said we're brothers and sisters. The only real difference is that she's black. Well, now you want to make this a race thing. After we stood up for you during Black Lives Matter, you're going to vote for Genocide Harris? What the fuck are you talking about? Trump is literally going to do way worse in Palestine. You know that, don't you? Oh, I didn't say I was voting for Trump. I just said I wasn't voting for Kamala. Then who are you voting for? I didn't say Trump. And what about us here? As black people, we're going to be affected if Trump wins. Y'all will be affected too, but like, we're going through our own genocide. Don't you care? Like, we even promoted your movement during our movement, which was overshadowed by your movement and everybody else's. Let me just be honest. I'm not voting for it, Nick.
Y'all are so blinded by hate. Let me tell you how racism is going to keep the middle class stuck. America has a long, ugly history of people hating black and brown folks, so much so that they're willing to vote against their own survival just to keep their own racist ideologies alive. Time and time again, working class white Americans have been tricked into supporting policies that make them poorer, sicker, and more desperate, all because those in power tell them that they're going to punish black people and immigrants and other marginalized groups. Donald Trump's tax plan is the latest proof of this self-destructive cycle. His policies will hurt 95% of Americans, especially working class white Americans who make up a large percentage of his base, but yet they will still support him. Why? Because his campaign fuels their hate, distracting them from the fact that they too are being robbed. They are so determined to see black people struggle, so obsessed with upholding white supremacy that they will literally vote to make themselves poor if it means keeping the lie alive. Meanwhile, the ultra-rich, who don't care about race at all, just about staying rich and in power, laugh as they continue to collect wealth off the backs of struggling Americans. Trump's tax plan is not just about economics. It's a weapon of mass distraction, designed to use racism as a smokescreen while the rich steal from the poor. This isn't anything new. It's the same trick used throughout history. From the days of slavery, when rich plantation owners convinced poor whites to fight for a system that oppressed them too, to Jim Crow laws, to today's voter suppression and economic exploitation. The question I have is, when will people wake up? How much suffering will it take for them to see that the real enemy isn't black and brown people? It's the billionaires and the politicians robbing them blind while feeding them lies. This is the truth that racists don't want to admit. The very policies they think will hurt black and brown folks will hurt them first. And when they find out that they've been used as pawns in a game that's designed to keep them struggling, it may be too late.
I'm going to step on a bunch of people's feet when I say this. You are not being discriminated against just because you are not centered in the story. I need people to marinate in that, sit with that. You are not being oppressed by other people talking about various histories or focusing on various literature. None of those things are directly harmful to you. The way some folks will literally try to spin it as if talking about, let's take an example, if talking about black history is harmful to them somehow. They never prove it. They never have any tangible examples of the actual harm of discussing Black history. It's all based upon people's feelings, which, if we're basing things upon people's feelings, there's a whole group of Black people who would love to talk about our feelings about things. Our feelings are never considered in these conversations, but the idea that it is oppressive to certain groups of folks to learn Black history is wild. That is somehow harmful and detrimental to these folks to learn actual history, things that have actually happened, as opposed to those things that actually happened, is wild. It shows me that y'all have never truly been oppressed because of your color of your skin. Like, y'all have never experienced that. When I'm having these discussions here on this forum and folks come on and they leave their comments when I ask them for examples of how this is oppressive to them, you know what some of those comments are? Black history section at the bookstore. Netflix having a whole Black section. The Black hair care aisle. Do y'all see how that's like wild? That other people simply existing, simply talking about existing, or in the case of the hair care aisle, simply caring for our bodies is somehow oppressive to folks who are so used to being centered that they lose their marbles when they hear or learn or are confronted with the idea that other people exist in this world and may want a little scalp moisturizer or may want to read a book that talks about our experiences, or may want to watch a love story that features Black love. That's the worst you gotta deal with? The idea that other people simply exist? That's the worst you have to deal with? Also, let me say this, because y'all think that everything Black people do is cool without giving Black people credit for it. Oppression is not fun. Being oppressed is not cute. Being harmed in so many different ways just because of the people that you come from is literally not fun. And I don't know why so many people want to be oppressed. I mean, outside of the fact that y'all think that everything Black people do is cool. I mean, a bunch of y'all walk around with do-rags right now trying to get waves. And I'm like, baby, you enjoy those cornfield looking locks. Like, that's fine. Baby, y'all don't even know what this stuff is for. A bunch of y'all were throwing oil in your hair and like y'all didn't know what that stuff was for. Like, it's weird. It's strange. It's odd. It's getting strange. It's okay if you're not centered in the story. It's okay. Other people exist. Other people can tell their perspectives. Other people matter too. Like, wasn't that y'all big thing that all lives matter? Isn't this a prime example of that? Breathe. It's okay. Other people exist. You'll be fine. You'll survive.
Yes, the people never learn, and people don't understand that politics is a dirty game. In politics, nobody is your friend. Everyone is just a friend of their benefits. You understand? So in America rather, we have two political parties. We have the Democrats and we have the Republicans. Now, America just had its election where Trump became the president, and Trump was having a competition with Kamala Harris, who was a representative of the Democrats, while Trump himself was a representative of the Republicans. I have done a number of videos ago, and I have been explaining Trump's policies, you know. When Trump first came into power, he was for the idea that America is fallen, or maybe if you like, you can say America is not in its original state of economy, politically, socially, economically. All other aspects of the American greatness was down. And so Trump was this man who was promising that America will uplift itself and become great again. Hence, we have the movement such as the Make America Great Again, or if you like, you can call it MAGA. MAGA was supposed to ensure that every American was living in the right and in the most acceptable way. MAGA was promising that everyone would get an equal chance at it, but we know Africans can never get an equal chance, or if you like, you can call them blacks. They can never get an equal chance in America as long as we have white majority in the political seats. It can never happen. It's just a dream. So Trump is just a man who is very sweet with words. He promised that he'll be bringing change to America. He'll be making things right for the black people. He also promised that he'll be making things right for the immigrants, for the people such as the Arabs. We have the Venezuelans. We've had the Latinas, the Mexicans, and the black people. You see, Trump promised he'll be making life easier for them. But once he got into power, people came to realize that it is the opposite. They found out the hard way. Hence, we had also another movement called FAFO. FA means F around and find out. You understand? F around and find out, which is like a consequence theory. It's like a consequence ideology that is there, that is being promoted by the Democrats to hurt the Republicans. I'm amazed, and I'm so amazed that black people also voted for Trump despite him showing them who he was. You know, if someone shows you who he is at the first time, believe him. Believe him. You know, you have to believe them if they show you who they are at first. Don't wait for the second time or the third time, you know. So these people are complaining, but do you think that their arguments are grounded? Do you think that their arguments are valid? Do you think that we should listen to their cry and sympathize with them as fellow humans who are watching? Or do you think they should eat what they ate? They should eat, and they should, they should suffer the consequence of what they took. There's an African proverb which goes, "An empty stomach does not vomit." The stomach that vomits is one which ate, and possibly it ate something poisonous, something not good. I want us to listen to these people complaining. I shall get back, where we shall also have a further discussion. Let's dive in.
You know, Republican voters love to say, Donald Trump is your president. Why can't you accept it? Donald Trump is your president. You need to get over it. But I hope you guys know, for most of us, we have accepted it. We understand he is the president. Some of us think the way he became president is a little shaky. Probably needs to have some extra eyes look into that. But at the end of the day, we know he's in the Oval Office. The problem is, it does not stop there, okay? It's never supposed to stop there. See, when you guys vote, and your leadership understands this, your representatives understand this, when you guys vote, you think voting that person in means you send them to Washington, and then they wave a magic wand, and they fix all your problems. You think, I voted for Donald Trump, he won. Now, just by him being there, everything that I was concerned with before he became president is going to change. What do I have to follow up with him about? He's there, he's gonna do it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not Hogwarts, okay? This is not the Ministry of Magic. He's not showing up there and saying a spell or two, and you have lower grocery prices. You have more affordable health care. You have all the things that are currently making your life more difficult fixed. No, those changes take actual work, okay? They take negotiation. They take litigation. They take all of the pressure that comes from the people in order for our congressmen, our senators, and the president himself to act in our best interests, not in their own. It's funny you guys say you don't like socialism, but you seem to love the idea of the government taking care of all your problems once you get the people in there that you like. I'm very sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that is not our reality, okay? We absolutely need to keep questioning what these people do every single day. The pressure people have been putting on these senators, the pressure people have been putting on this congressman is why they are telling the muskrat that he can no longer act with unilateral power. I bet you if we weren't constantly asking, what does he do? Why is he doing it? How does he have the power to do it? Isn't this constitutional or unconstitutional? I bet you if those lawsuits weren't getting filed and those judges weren't looking into these cases because of the people constantly asking questions, we would not have seen any change on that matter. This is why the American people cannot just accept that he's president, go home, and not ask questions. That's how we got here to begin with. So instead of focusing on all of us complaining, I'm telling you right now, you guys need to be complaining a lot more.
It's obvious that many of you do not understand what restorative justice is. Restorative justice is compassion. Restorative justice is compassion for the victim first, for community, and it is also compassion for the offender. Restorative justice gives the victims an opportunity to be heard by community, by the offender. It gives victims the opportunity to say, this is what happened to me, this is what you did to me, and this is how it affected my life. Restorative justice gives victims a feeling of safety amongst the masses. It lets them know they are not alone. It validates the harm that has been caused to the victims and reminds victims that they have an entire community that loves and cares for them. Restorative justice is compassion for community because it brings community in to be witnesses, not mediators, but witnesses to a process in which our community restores order and brings the fold back together. Restorative justice is compassion for the community because it shows community that there is accountability here for each and every one of us, whichever side of accountability we stand on, whether we are being held accountable or the offender is being held accountable for the crimes they have committed against us. Restorative justice is compassion for the offender because what is the alternative? Lock them up and throw away the fucking key? Just discard them like they're trash? No. Restorative justice gives Shaheem the opportunity to hear what they've done wrong and come up with a plan with community to not reoffend anyone in community. Restorative justice gives Shaheem the opportunity to right their wrongs and come back home, to not be ostracized, to not be left without a people. And unfortunately, we don't practice restorative justice in our community. We fall back on the white man's idea of justice for Black lives, and that is just fucking punitive. In order for restorative justice to happen, Shaheem has got to be willing to come to the table. And these victims of Shaheem's have tried many times to communicate with Shaheem, but Shaheem does not value the lives of their victims. What Shaheem does is offends and then blocks, like the victims never even existed and certainly do not matter. And after Shaheem blocks their victims, then his flying fucking monkeys swarm their victims and makes the situation that much worse. Our community deserves better than that. And none of us are above accountability. I'm not trying to throw Shaheem away, but Shaheem has resisted the call-in one after another, and this has gotten bigger and bigger because the body count of victims continues to grow. And this community has to put a stop to it because Shaheem has a type. And I happen to be Shaheem's type of victim. And if I don't stop it from happening to someone else, I could be next. You could be next. And that fear right there is what destabilizes and disconnects our community. Restorative justice is in order, so we can protect, care for, and clean our own communities without outside interference. And if you have a problem with people being doxxed, so do I. That's one of the things that we need to be talking to Shaheem about. If you have a problem with people calling Shaheem's job, Shaheem is a fucking therapist. And there is a level of accountability in that profession to do no harm. And you should also consider, if Shaheem had respected their victims enough to actually sit down at the table and discuss the harm that they have caused in community, those victims would not now be seeking other alternatives for justice. Restorative justice is in order, and you've not seen it practiced very often, but that doesn't mean that this isn't it. That doesn't mean that this isn't it. You just don't like it because Shaheem is your problematic fucking fave.
I still, for the life of me, will never ever understand how anyone believed that Donald Trump winning would be a better option or a better choice than Kamala Harris winning, or that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump would be exactly the same. Now, I'm one of those that understand, as a Democratic voter, how weak the messaging apparatus truly is. They're not the most clear on how they're different from Republicans on a multitude of different issues, Palestine being one. Now, with Kamala Harris, she was crystal clear on how she differed from Donald Trump on a lot of different issues, to include Palestine. But I think the Democratic Party as a whole did a lot of damage to Kamala and her chances in 2024 because they weren't clear. And I know for a lot of people in the Democratic Party, we give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt and believe that because these are adults, that they can find information on their own. I don't personally believe that. I have always believed that the overwhelming majority of voters in this country are illiterate when it comes to politics. So they're not going to know where to look, what to look for. And if they do start looking, they might start looking for confirmation bias of things that they already believe. So if they believe that there's no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, the confirmation bias that they're going to look for is how the Democrats and the Republicans are similar on these issues. So it is incumbent upon the Democratic Party establishment to work on their messaging apparatus. Even if the Democratic voters are basically saying that they're not going to participate in protests, you won't be seeing them at these town halls, that they're going to be sitting out for the next 4 years, specifically the 92%. The politicians still have work to do. They still have to show that they are willing to fight. And for a lot of these Democratic politicians, they are not trying to meet the moment. They're not trying to meet the moment. A lot of these older Democrats are not trying to give up power to the younger generation. There's absolutely no reason why AOC and Jasmine Crockett shouldn't be front and center in the Democratic Party, because they are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And a lot of these older Democrats are trying to engage in respectability politics with a party, a large portion of the country that doesn't give a fuck about respect. Even the current sitting president of the United States that is literally trying to undermine the Constitution. We are so beyond respectability politics. In the next couple of years, the Democrats have to work on their messaging apparatus. They have to break it down, Barney style, in a way that the dumbest voter in this country can understand. And I'm going to stress, the dumbest voters in this country can understand. I know that the Democrats are still trying to hold on to this PC messaging, but at this current juncture, we have to be comfortable calling people exactly what they are. Because if you fell for a Trump scam again, you are dumb. A lot of these Trump voters are losing their jobs, losing their benefits. Their families are being deported. They are literally watching their families being genocided because this man basically says he wants to turn Gaza into a resort town. So they need to understand just how dumb it was to vote for this man. You're not smart voting for a man that's literally telling you that he's going to harm you. You are dumb. And that's what the Democratic Party has to start with. That we have a bunch of dumb voters in this country. And when you start at that honest point, then you can actually start doing your messaging that becomes more effective. And you can sell the populist platform that benefits a lot.
That America is the epitome. America is the highest form of self-actualization. You see, we believe that once a person goes to America, they make it in their life. We believe that America is where, if you want to succeed, just try and go there and you will make it. You know, the American dream has been sold to Africans, and Africans believe it so much. You know, so right now, looking at what is being sold here and what people are getting, I believe they're not getting value for what they bought. You know, Trump was selling the idea of making America great again. But right now, do you think America is great again? But even if they're trying to get themselves to the point of making America great again, to what extent? What are the sacrifices being made to make America reach that point? You know, Trump knew what the people wanted. He knew, if I tell this to the Africans, they'll vote me in. If I tell this to the Latinas, they'll vote me in. If I tell this to the Venezuelans, they'll vote me in. If I tell this to the Africans coming to the continent, to the Chinese, to the Indians as well, they'll vote me in. And so, after he understood this, he sold them the narrative, a false narrative of making America great again. You see, America is not, or rather will never ever be great again as it used to be. Right now we are having superpowers such as China. We are having Russia growing up each day. We are having countries like Singapore, countries like South Korea, countries like Japan. We're also having countries in the Middle East such as the UAE. These countries are very much growing big each day and each night, you know. Now, I look back and I think for myself that these people who are regretting, they shouldn't be regretting. The reason why they shouldn't be regretting is that Trump first came to power, and you know what he did? He erected the Great Wall. He erected the wall to separate the Mexicans from entering into USA. But you know, there is a very, very important sector that the Mexicans are always doing. The Mexicans are always ensuring that America has food. The Mexicans are doing those jobs that normal Americans don't want to do. You understand? So when Trump was trying to make America great again, him bringing the policies such as the deportation, the mass deportation, this was going to actually affect America's economy, you know. When Trump even stopped what we call the United States of America International Development Fund, it hindered many lives, you know. He may have had good reasons to doing so, but he never. These people are sold a narrative, a false narrative, because that is what they wanted to hear. It was itching to their ears and it was sweet to them. So that is what they were told and that is what they got, you know. But sometimes it's better to have a rational mindset. Do not vote emotionally, you know. Do not vote emotionally because people are voting you. Just go yourself and vote because someone has sweet words. No. We thought that Barack Obama, when he becomes a president, black people will have a relief in America. But did it happen so? It didn't. He was serving his masters over there. Trump is also serving his masters. You know, these people might have good intention, but once they get into power, there is other forces above them that they also must serve. Yeah. So for the complaints, I kind of agree with them. I kind of sympathize, but they knew better. They knew who Trump was before they elected him. But still, they chose to elect him. Now, I think they have to live with the consequence. Yes. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like what I do, subscribe. I will so much and surely appreciate. You can give us a super thanks, and you can also subscribe, be a member of our Patreon members, and donate something to us monthly. Thank you so much.